They told you rejection is just a part of life, a minor bruise, a passing discomfort you should quickly brush off. But what if I told you that every act of rejection is a wound far deeper than your ego admits, a psychic laceration that rips through the very fabric of who you think you are? You have been lied to. Rejection isn't a lesson in resilience. It is an existential blow, a quiet funeral for the pieces of you that you projected onto another and lost the moment they walked away. Why does it feel like dying when someone shuts you out? Why does your chest constrict and your mind spiral as if you are mourning something essential, something that cannot be recovered? Because in a sense you are. Jung warned us, the psyche is a battlefield, and rejection is not a harmless defeat. It is a confrontation with the shadow, the parts of yourself you hide, deny, or secretly despise. You chase validation, you crave belonging, but beneath it all lies a silent terror, that you are unworthy, unlovable, invisible. The pain of rejection is not about the other person's absence. It is the shattering of the persona, the mask you carefully constructed to win approval, to shield the wounded, trembling self beneath. And when that mask is torn away, what remains? Only the shadow, staring back with all the fears you dared. Never speak. This is the truth no one wants to admit. Rejection is not an event. It is an apocalypse in miniature, a collapse of meaning, a loss of psychic territory, a death of illusions. And as you stand in the ruins, the ache you feel is not just loneliness, it is the terror of confronting your own naked soul. You want to believe that pain fades with time, that wounds close, and the self regenerates stronger than before. But what if time is a liar too? What if the ache that lingers after rejection is not meant to heal but to haunt, to remind you of all the truths you have buried in silence? Jung insisted that the unconscious is not a passive abyss, but an active force, one that returns, again and again, demanding to be seen. When you are rejected, you are not simply losing another. You are losing the dream you stitched together out of hope, desperation, and fragments of your own shadow. Every goodbye is a dismantling of the archetypes you projected onto their face, the savior, the lover, the mirror of your hidden wounds. With their departure, these projections collapse, the persona fractures, and you are left face to face with the void inside. Why does the world seem suddenly alien, your own skin unfamiliar? Because you mistook attachment for identity. You clung to someone, believing they could validate the parts of you you refused to integrate. Now, with their absence, you confront the terrifying possibility that your sense of self was never truly yours. It was borrowed, grafted onto another, always one rejection away from oblivion. This is why rejection feels like death. It is not just loss, it is annihilation. The unconscious screams for meaning as your reality unravels, dragging ancient fears to the surface, the fear of abandonment, the terror of insignificance, the suspicion that, without the gaze of another, you cease to exist. But what if this collapse is not a curse but an invitation, an initiation into a deeper, darker understanding of yourself? You've been taught to run from discomfort, to mask your agony with distractions, bravado, or shallow reassurances. Move on, they say. There are plenty of fish in the sea. But Jung whispers a more brutal truth, that every pain you avoid festers in the dark, growing monstrous beneath the floorboards of your consciousness. The wounds left by rejection do not vanish. They mutate, infecting your relationships, your ambitions, your very sense of purpose. Have you ever wondered why the memory of rejection resurfaces in your quietest moments, like a phantom hand around your throat? It is because the psyche does not forget. It catalogues every slight, every humiliation, every time you were made to feel invisible. These memories become the seeds of your shadow, resentments and insecurities that drive your choices, without you ever realizing. When you are rejected, a part of you wants to blame the world, to point outward in anger or shame. But the true conflict is internal. You are at war with your own denied self. The shadow seizes this moment of vulnerability, whispering poison. You are unworthy. You are defective. You will always be abandoned. And because you never dared to face these voices, you start to believe them. You wear your persona like armor, desperate to shield yourself from future pain. But the more you pretend, the more fragile you become, trapped in a cycle of avoidance and fear. The world becomes a mirror reflecting only what you wish to hide, yet in the darkness of rejection, there is a crack, a faint invitation to descend into your own depths, to unearth the truths you buried to survive. Are you willing to enter the labyrinth within, knowing that the only way out is through? You stand at the threshold of the labyrinth, heart pounding, surrounded by the echoes of every rejection you've ever endured. The urge to turn back is overwhelming. Society has conditioned you to seek comfort, to numb the ache with noise and novelty, to believe that happiness is found in the approval of others. But Jung warns, the path to wholeness winds not through avoidance, but through confrontation. The labyrinth is your own psyche, and its minotaur is your shadow. Why does the fear of rejection dominate your life? Because somewhere deep inside, you have equated acceptance with survival. As children, love was not a right but a fragile reward, given or withheld according to how well you fit the image others demanded. You learned to wear masks, to silence inconvenient feelings, to banish parts of yourself that threatened your place in the tribe. Each act of self-abandonment became a brick in the walls that now imprison you. The pain of rejection is so visceral because it exposes this ancient wound, the fear that if you are truly seen, you will be cast out. So you cling to the persona, shaping yourself into what is wanted, even if it means betraying your authentic self. But no mask can protect you forever. Eventually, someone will see past it, or worse, will leave you despite it. And in that moment, all the suppressed parts of your soul surge upward, demanding recognition. This confrontation is the beginning of transformation, but it is also a descent, a necessary death of illusions, comfort, and false identity. Are you ready to shed the skin that no longer fits, to walk deeper into the dark and claim the power hidden in your wounds? Here in the choking dark of your own mind, the voices grow louder. Memories resurface, shards of childhood shame, adolescent betrayal, the sting of every door slammed in your face. Each fragment pulses with old pain, proof that your shadow is alive and hungry. Jung did not sugarcoat this process. He called it a confrontation with the unconscious, a reckoning with everything you could not accept about yourself. And now at your lowest, these pieces demand to be integrated or they will devour you from within. Why do you recoil from these memories? Why does the heart race, the breath tighten at the thought of being seen as you are? It is because you were taught that some emotions are unacceptable, some desires too dangerous to admit. You learn to exile parts of yourself, anger, vulnerability, longing for connection, hoping to buy acceptance at the cost of authenticity. But the shadow cannot be destroyed. It waits in the dark, shaping your fears, sabotaging your relationships, whispering that you will never be enough. Every rejection is a trigger, a summons to the courtroom of your own soul, where hidden verdicts are delivered. Unlovable, unwanted, unworthy. Most people run from this trial, seeking new faces, new distractions, new masks. But the truth is relentless. The pain will return again and again until you choose to confront what you have denied. So the question lingers. Will you continue to escape into illusions, or will you finally face the shadow and reclaim what was lost? What if the key to healing is found not in running, but in embracing the darkness you dread? Most will flee from the shadow, clutching at fleeting pleasures and hollow triumphs, desperate to fill the void left by rejection. But you are not here for comfort. You are here for truth, a truth that burns away the lies you've told yourself. Jung knew that true integration cannot begin until you are willing to name what you fear, to stand in the ruins and call forth the ghosts by their real names. What would it mean to stop running? To let the ache expand, to sit with it until it reveals the secret at its core. The pain of rejection is not proof of your unworthiness, but a signal, an alarm from the depths, demanding that you look inward. Beneath every sting is a buried longing, the wish to be seen, accepted, and loved as you are. But this longing has been distorted by a lifetime of masks, self-censorship, and the relentless pursuit of external validation. When the persona crumbles, what remains? Only the raw, unadorned self, wounded but authentic, fractured but real. This is the threshold of transformation, the moment Jung called individuation. The journey from dependence on others for meaning to the forging of your own identity from the fire of loss. It is not a comfortable path. You will face grief, rage, despair. But these are the birth pains of something deeper, a wholeness no one can give or take away. Will you endure the fire or retreat into the safety of your illusions? The choice is yours, and the cost of avoidance is nothing less than your own soul. The next step is not forward but downward, into the shadows, where the real work begins. As you descend further, you realize the world outside is a reflection of the world within. Every relationship, every heartbreak, every stinging rejection, each one is a mirror forcing you to confront the parts of yourself you tried to erase. Jung believed the greatest illusions are not the ones others project onto you, but the ones you project onto yourself. The persona, crafted for approval and survival, is a masterpiece of self-deception. But when it shatters, you finally see the chaos underneath, the orphaned archetypes, the exiled desires, the needs that never found a voice. What happens when you stop pretending? When you let the world see your wounds, your doubts, your raw hunger to belong? There is terror, yes, but there is also a strange liberation, a release from the exhausting performance of being what others want. In the depths of rejection, authenticity becomes a necessity, not a luxury. You discover that the pain you feared is also a teacher. Every emotional death carves away what is false, leaving you face to face with the soul's bare architecture. You begin to sense the outlines of your true self, messy, imperfect, defiant, but finally real. And in that moment, you glimpse a freedom no persona could ever offer. The freedom to exist without apology, to embrace the totality of your being. But the journey is not over. The shadow still waits, coiled with secrets and unlived possibilities. Will you turn back now or press deeper into the darkness to claim the gifts hidden within your pain? You were told to fear the darkness within, as if your shadow was a curse, a stain to be eradicated. But Jung taught that the shadow, once faced, is not an enemy. It is a lost ally, holding the energy and insight you surrendered to survive. The agony of rejection strips away the distractions of daily life, leaving you alone with your true inheritance. The parts of yourself you once rejected now rise up, demanding to be recognized and integrated. Why do so many repeat the same patterns? Clinging to broken relationships or chasing the ghosts of lost approval? Because until you embrace your shadow, you remain bound to the wounds of your past, chained to the unconscious compulsion to reenact old betrayals, to seek validation from those least able to give it. Your suffering is not random. It is the psyche's attempt to force your attention inward, to break the spell of self-deception. When you finally stop running, a new possibility emerges. Integration. You begin to reclaim the pieces of your soul that were abandoned for acceptance, power, or peace. This is not a painless process. It requires relentless honesty and a willingness to feel what you once fled. Yet only by integrating the shadow can you access the fullness of your creativity, your rage, your longing for connection. Qualities that denied become poison, but accepted become your deepest strengths. Here, at the heart of the wound, the seed of transformation is planted. Will you nurture it, or will you return to the numbness of old patterns, haunted by a life half-lived? The world rewards conformity, not authenticity. It celebrates the persona, smooth, polished, unthreatening, while shaming those who reveal their true complexity. Yet Jung knew that the price of denying your shadow is soul sickness, depression, anxiety, chronic emptiness. When you numb yourself against rejection, you also numb yourself against joy, depth, and real connection. The very act of self-protection becomes self-betrayal. Why is it so hard to let go of the masks? Because the fear of being cast out, of standing naked before the tribe, is primal. Evolution etched this terror into your bones, but the paradox is cruel. The more you hide, the lonelier you become. Your relationships lose their substance, built on half-truths and mutual pretending. Intimacy turns to performance. Love becomes conditional, doled out to the parts of you that fit the script, withheld from the rest. Rejection, then, is not just an end. It is an invitation. Every wound is a doorway, opening onto the raw landscape of your own being. The pain is a call to wake up, to stop abandoning yourself for the illusion of safety, to reclaim the exiled pieces of your spirit. When you answer this call, something profound happens. You become real. Not perfect, not untouchable, but whole. Integration is the rebellion the world fears most, the return of the authentic self, no longer shackled by the judgment of others. Are you willing to risk everything for that kind of freedom, to walk through the fire and emerge changed, irrevocably alive? This is where the illusion dies, where you are left with nothing but the truth you tried so hard to avoid. Emotional rejection, for all its brutality, is a sacred threshold. It destroys the false structures of your identity, forcing you to meet the one presence that has never abandoned you, your own shadowed self. Jung called this encounter individuation, the dangerous, necessary process of becoming whole, not by erasing your darkness, but by integrating it. Will you cling to the persona, forever seeking comfort in the eyes of others, or will you step into the wilderness of your own soul? The world will not applaud your transformation. It may punish you for daring to be real, yet in the silence after rejection, there is a clarity no external approval can offer. You begin to sense the quiet power of self-acceptance, the radical act of embracing every part of your being, light and dark, wounded and wise. Every end is a beginning. The death you feared was never the end of you, but the end of your illusions. Through the agony of rejection, you awaken to your true task, to become the author of your own story, to live as one who is no longer at war with themselves. You are free, not because you have eliminated pain, but because you have learned to hold it with courage and consciousness. This is the liberation Jung promised, the union of shadow and light, the birth of a self no longer dependent on the fleeting approval of others. Now, as you cross this final threshold, the only question that remains is this: will you continue to betray yourself for the comfort of the tribe, or will you rise, fully alive, and claim the life that is finally, fearlessly yours?